Greetings, I am Tom Merle, and welcome to this celebration. We know you could be anywhere, so the fact that you are here today sharing your greatest gifts, your time and energy means the world to us. I hope you know that you are valued, you are appreciated, and you are loved just as you are. As you can see, I am not alone. I have an amazing guest. She goes by the name of Janna Joyner. How are you doing, Janna? How's it going?
I am great. I'm so happy to be here. So I'm excited. I'm
This
doing wonderful.
for the good folks out there, we kept saying when we were catching up before, and like, stop, we got to hit record. So this is like the energy is just ready. That's how I'm feeling.
Yes, yeah.
So one of the questions that we have as a tradition is to start with this. I'm going to say an I prompt, but it's you. You're the person that's going to answer. Okay.
Okay.
So it goes, if you really knew me, like if I was like your best friend or somebody like that, if you really knew me, you'd know that.
Ooh, if you really knew me, you would know that I still love Beyonce.
As soon as you said that, I was like, she's gonna say, I know where this is going.
Yeah, I still love Beyonce.
Would we be surprised? Are there some people that fell off or something like that?
I feel like I don't talk about her as much as I used to. I mean, I would always find ways to weave her into literally any conversation, any talk, podcast. I always find a way to loop. I mean, that's how you and I got connected. Is I did an article on how Beyonce has branded herself over the years. And so I just think that, I just haven't really talked about it, but I still love her. And even more so since Renaissance, from a creative perspective, I think that this is her strongest body of work. And so, yeah, the love is still there. I'm still taking notes on the branding side and how she's just able to kill it in her career. I'm always a fan.
Mm. What do you think is the reason for the where you're saying like I talk about her not as often? What do you think? I feel like there's something deep there.
There might be something deep. I may need to unpack that with my therapist. I don't know. I don't know. I think that, we haven't gotten much from her in a while. I think last time I was kind of on this heavy Beyonce thing is when she released Homecoming. And that was just kind of a testament to how powerful her brand was, how powerful her staying power and ability to reinvent herself. And I think we just haven't really gotten much from her that, caught my eye in terms of like, what is a conversation, starter. And so I think now with having this new album out, I just think there's more to be said about her and her career and her power as an artist and a creative. Yeah.
One of my potential hypotheses was that because I was in the punk rock scene growing up, so we would had this word that was the like ultimate diss, and it was poser, that you're a poser. And I feel like there's a lot of Beyonce posers where it's like name dropping for clout.
Yeah.
You know I mean?
Yeah. Because, mentioning her name automatically, brings some attention. And it's like, you're not really about this life.
And I wonder if it was like an intentional, like, you know what? Those who know.
Those who know. That's exactly it. If you know, you know.
And I don't need the extra accolades of being one of the real ones. That's kind
of, if you know, you know. I'm not new to this. I'm true to this,
Yeah. So I guess that's my unpacking. I think that it's because you got that inner confidence, that inner glow where, I don't need to hold a sign anymore. I'm good.
Exactly. I'm good. B knows I'm I've never met her, but we're here. She knows I'm about that life.
There we go. Okay. Well, I think this is a good time. Why don't we go camera off?
Okay.
And, we can relax into it. We can get I'm going to for sure turn my ring light off.
Oh yeah.
And one of the pluses of my daughter is I got all these toys that are meant for fidgeting that people have gotten her over the years. Oh yeah, I definitely grab one of those.
maybe that's why my desk is so filthy. I've been in search of a good fidget tool.
Well,
I'm using a comb.
Yeah, this one's pretty cool. It's got like a head of 5 different animals, a body of 5 different animals, and like a bottom of 5 different. So
I like that.
You just kind of like spin it and they're magnetic and you kind of put the blocks wherever they need to go.
Oh, that's a perfect fidget tool.
Yeah. She doesn't use it, but I definitely took it from her. So
they bought it for you. They bought it for you.
Yeah. Okay, just before you jump into this week's episode. So Janna and we just finished this episode and I think we talked for about 2 hours and 20 minutes. I could be wrong. But we at least talked for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Now I'm of two minds. I think long form's dope. I listen to 3.5 hour podcasts all the time. And I always think it's fun when Brene Brown splits her episodes into 2. It always makes me think like, ooh, what happened? It's a 2-parter. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to split this into a 2-parter. If you're hearing this, the team decided, okay, we're splitting this into 2, which means I don't know where we're going to split this. I'm going to have my team decide. So somewhere in here, the conversation will be split, even though we didn't get together 2 different times. So let me get out of the way, let you jump in, and then you're going to hear Janna and I come back and be like, hey, awkward turtle, we're pausing the conversation here. Come back next week. Okay. So that's the little shout out. This is going to be a fun one. All right, here we go. So for the folks out there, Janna has been on this episode under a different name. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So back in 2019, when I joined you for the first time, I was Janna M Hall, but since I have become Janna M Joyner, I am newly married. I'm 6 months in to this married life with my wonderful husband, Chris. And I decided to make the pivot. What's really funny is that I asked him before we got married, I said, do you care if I change my name? Because I didn't want to. And he was like, no, I don't care. Everyone knows that you're my wife, so it doesn't really matter. But then once we actually got married, I'm like, hey, I want all the perks. I want to be a Joyner. I want to change my name. So yeah, I'm officially Janna Joyner. Not legally because it's a lot of paperwork, but that's my new name.
That is awesome. That's so much fun. And we were talking before when I wrote it down. It's Joy, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Joyner.
Yes, my husband calls me Jan Joy, which I love because I feel like that also matches my personality. I am a very joyful person, and so I don't think it's a coincidence that I'm now Jan Joy.
Well, how did y'all meet?
So we met through. Oh, this is funny. So I was at a Beyonce birthday party.
There we go.
Party. It was Beyonce's birthday. We actually met a few weeks after our podcast episode aired.
No way.
Yes, way. So I think our episode aired in August of 2019. And September 4th, 2019, Beyonce's birthday, a few friends and I went to a Beyonce birthday party where they were playing Beyonce the whole night. And so naturally, I was on the dance floor the whole night doing choreography from her performances and all the other things. And one of my friends took video of me dancing, doing one of the routines and posted it to her Instagram story. And my husband, then Chris, he reached out to her and said, hey, who's that in the black? And she said, my single friend, Janna.
My single friend, Janna.
My single friend, Janna. It was poetic. It was perfect. And so she gave him my Instagram name and he reached out a few days later. And really that was it. He loves Beyonce. And so he was really enamored by my ability to do choreography to one of her songs. And so, from there, he slid in my DMs and we started, having a conversation, and we have legit talked every single day since. Like, we have not, since the first time we have met and first time we spoke, we have not gone a single day without talking. So I would say it was a very good alley-oop from my girlfriend.
Okay. So we got to just zoom in on a little part of this story here for a second.
Okay.
Because lots of folks are listening and hearing, I was always told slide into someone's DMs is not a cool thing to do, but this one turned into a marriage. So for all those out there, taking notes, how do you appropriately, respectfully DM someone in a way that it can turn into a marriage? What should we do here?
Well, I think it helps to have some type of mutual friend. If he were just a stranger who reached out to me and slid in my DMs, and I mean, he approached me just in the most basic way. He just said, "Hi, Janna, I'm Chris. How are you?" I mean, there was no type of, "Hi, beautiful. I just saw you dancing to Beyonce and you're just so gracious." It was literally, "Hi, Janna, I'm Chris. How are you?" But I think with the DM, it helps to have a mutual friend or someone who can just say, "Hey," someone who can vouch for them. I think when you're just kind of, cold calling or whatever, cold DMing, it's a little trickier because it's like, I don't know this man. I don't even know if like he's legit. Is he a catfish? I need someone to vouch for him. So it really helped that he reached out to my friend first, and then my friend said, "Hey, someone's interested. I gave him your Instagram. He's probably going to reach out." So my advice to anyone listening who is tempted to slide in someone's DMs, see if you have a mutual friend or mutual connection, and then kind of do the massaging over there and just let them know, "Hey, do you know this person? You think they'd be interested? I'd like to reach out." And then have them kind of, let them know that you'll be reaching out, and then you can come in. So that's my advice. Don't be a complete stranger. That might make it a little weird.
So I feel like you just gave life advice for marketing, for getting a job, for
you're right.
dating. It's all about the cosign.
It's all about the cosign. Yes, yes, that's perfect. That's exactly right. It's all about the
cosign. Cold traffic is the worst. Get the cold sign.
Yes, exactly. You got to have someone to vouch for you.
So I met Adora on OkCupid, which is a dating app for all you young folks out there. And I reached out to her, and my strategy was always, which shouldn't seem deep, but it turns out is just like actually read her profile and DM her something that lets her know that I didn't just copy and paste this.
Right. So, I love that.
So she messaged me back and said, "I appreciate it, but it looks like I'm out of your age range." So I was like, "Oh, fuck." So then I went and like changed it. I was like, boom, change. Then I was like, not anymore.
I love that.
So that was my opener.
And I think, so I imagine like right there, that had to win her over, right? Like how?
Absolutely not.
No? I'd have been like, "Oh, that's so cute." Like that was I thought that was cute. So she was still not buying it.
No, it took us like 3 months to go on 5 dates. It was excruciating. I was like, "Oh my God, so much uncertainty. I'm so excited about this." And she was just like, I was like, "Come on."
Like, you don't see the vision I see. But that shows that you were very persistent and you were consistent. Because you were, over the course of those 3 months, you said 3 dates, 5 months, or 5 months, 3 dates.
Over the course of summer, June to August, we went on 5 dates because, she's so cool. We had to wait like a month in between each date. So I would just plot and plan. I just would do the coolest date ever after it.
I love the dedication though. And that, she had a plan, because look at you now, married, got a beautiful baby, she knew what she was doing.
And you nailed it, because I was saying to her the other day, I'm like, I think that you ended up marrying me and everyone else because I just had like the best follow through. And that's just one of her love languages, people who can just follow through.
See, and maybe that was a test. Maybe she was testing your follow through.
So I had a soundtrack for those first couple dates. Did you have a song or anything that reminds you of that early dating period?
Yeah, actually. And I don't know if it was actually Kanye West, "Devil in a New Dress."
Okay, hence the pause.
Because I mean, it's not really thrilling to have Kanye be the soundtrack to your relationship, considering Kanye today. But Devil in a New Dress, that was a song with Kanye and Rick Ross. And on the very first time we saw each other in person, so we'd talked and messaged and FaceTimed for a few weeks. And then one day, he had asked me what he was cooking for dinner, and I gave him a suggestion. He said, "Am I cooking for two?" And I was like, "Ooh." Sure.
There we go. And you said, okay. So how long into this was the DM back and forth that he saw his opportunity?
We had maybe been talking for about 3 weeks at this point.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So am I cooking for two? You said sure.
I said sure. I drove to him, and I was so nervous. I was, which is not like me. I don't get nervous. I don't get shy, but for some reason I was so smitten that I didn't really know what to say. And so I was just sitting there smiling like a little awkward schoolgirl. And so he plays music. So he started playing music, and he played this Devil in a New Dress, which is a song I love. I love that album from Kanye. And he sat in the kitchen while cooking, and he rapped the entire song for me. And maybe not for me, but just he rapped it and like had the hand motions. I mean, he was so animated, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is like, he's fun. He's helping me loosen up. Like he is the real deal. Like that was it. That had me so smitten. And I was like, you're my kind of people.
Oh, sounds. And how was the food?
Delicious. He actually is the cook in our house. I do not cook at all. He does everything. He's an amazing cook. That's his love language is cooking for me, for guests. He loves to host. So yeah, the food, that was 100% part of what won me over.
This sounds like a great first date.
It was. And I mean, I don't even know if I would call it a date, because we did go on an official date like a couple of days later, but this was a great first encounter. And people might think it's weird because I went to his house. But again, going back to the cosign, he wasn't a total stranger. I knew that we had mutual friends and people that he grew up with. I knew. So it was okay.
No, I think that's great. It sets the tone. It's personable. It's vulnerable right from the beginning.
Yeah.
High trust.
Yes.
That's nice.
Exactly. So what about you? What's your soundtrack to your relationship?
I'm sorry. What was
in the early days?
Just before I share that, I wanted to share this quick little note. Now, I totally apologize. I do not know how to pronounce this person's name yet, but it's Ziwe. Have you heard of her on Showtime?
Ziwe?
Yes.
Maybe. Yes, I know. Yeah, Ziwe. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I was watching one of her episodes last night, and anytime they'd say, because she interviewed, I think her name is Megan Fox, and I think that person might have like perhaps dated Kanye. So anytime they'd say Kanye's name, they would bleep it. They'd be like, beep. And then they'd have little subtitles.
That's so good.
Oh, Julia Fox.
Julia Fox, yep.
Okay. So yeah, I thought that was very clever editing.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of funny. Mine was Solange, I Decided. And specifically, I would play it on vinyl. And there are many versions of I Decided. And so it's only this version. And I would always think of it as if Adora was singing it. Oh. And there's like the line there that was like, they were too cool to run the race. But she kept the pace with the smile on my face.
Yeah.
Then I knew it was you. And I was like, yes, that's what I wanted Adora to say. So it's like I was like, I just got to keep going. And then this will be Adora singing this. So that's like the way I listen to it. And I just almost every day I would just, before I went to work, I'd put on that side of the record and be like, yep, keep going, Tom.
Oh my gosh. Why is this so perfect? And I love that. That makes me so happy. That song though, I really do love Solange, especially that album, The Hadley Street Dreams, and True. I think her music is definitely the soundtrack to some of the most important times in my life. So I love that is your soundtrack, that song. So good.
Is True the Red album?
True, yes.
Losing You on it?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was the first Solange song I heard. I was like, what?
Yes.
You can make music like this?
It is perfect.
So I always create these, like, in my mind, I create these categories where I'm like, if that was a category, this song would be number one. So for that song, the category is how many rhythms are layered into a song, and you got to include vocals, guitar, piano, like how many simultaneous but different rhythms are going on. And I think that song would be number one if that was the category.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that song, that song is incredible. Losing You. That's the soundtrack to my early New York days.
You're taking us back when you were at the ad agency.
Yeah, you have a great memory.
And they're counterintuitive rhythms, like the you know, it's like, oh my gosh, where's this all coming from?
And then it's like
yes.
It's just like slowly, like they add more and more and more every, like, as the song goes on. It's so great.
And I kind of feel like unsteady when it's going on, because I'm like, which one do I dance to? And then the vocals come in and they're so like solid. It's like, okay, I'm gonna stand on the rhythm of the vocals. Like that's what's gonna carry me through.
Yeah. Oh man. What an album. Now you're gonna make me listen to it later. But I played this album for my husband actually on the first day that we met in person, because he didn't know Solange pre A Seat at the Table. And so I said, "What, are you kidding me? Like, True is one of her best albums." Yeah. And so we played True, and we actually had our first kiss to Bad Girls, the last song on the album.
What?
Yep. Yeah.
Look at the synchronicity.
You know, it's poetic. It's poetic at this point.
Okay, what do you, because those first two albums are like, especially I Decided, it's like straight rock. Mm-hmm. And I think in one of the videos she's like got the old school backup dancers out front, drums, like, and then when we go to A Seat at the Table, and is the album after that Dreams? Is that just the first song on the album?
Oh, that's the first song. The album after that is When I Get Home.
Okay. So like those are, to me, a different style. They're like they have more, like, she plays more with, I think, silence and space.
Yeah, there's definitely more depth there. I think maybe in these two albums, we can see that she is really kind of unpacking her own experiences that she's gone through. Whereas I think her earlier ones, even though I think she, because she is a writer, I think she does bake her personal experience into everything. But I think Soul Angel and The Hadley Street Dreams and True are both more kind of widely, we can all relate to those things. Whereas I think with A Seat at the Table and When I Get Home are more of like her experiences. It's just deeper. And she's kind of making more of a statement, cultural statement. There's more, I feel like there's more power there. If that makes sense.
It does. It's interesting, because I'm hearing you lyrically, for sure, lyrically, and as a concept album, and kind of like the vignettes in between. And I would love to like be able to sit down with her and ask, like, what about like this particular, like the actual like instrumentation and rhythm and pace of the song for you, where like if we're saying it's deeper, where did when did you start to hear that or feel that, or am I making sense here?
Yes, you're making perfect sense. And I I believe, was it, I think around maybe right before A Seat at the Table, I think she moved to New Orleans. Um, and so I think around the time of True, maybe she had spent a lot of time in overseas. Maybe she was in certain parts of Africa. I can't fully remember. And so a lot of things were inspired. A lot of her music in that album were inspired by textures and colors and different instruments and sounds. And so there was a lot of vibrancy in that album. And then I think, she moved to New Orleans, and I think that's really when a lot of her life changes started happening. And I think she really got deeper into the creative process and art and just kind of, deeper into, I think it's when she moved to New Orleans. That's what I'm gonna guess. Is
Okay,
really
that,
when she, mm-hmm.
that makes sense because the Losing You video is shot in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what's so interesting about that is when I was in Florida, I was doing a lot of acoustic music,
Mm-hmm.
like almost for like at a beach or something like that, or a open mic. And when I got out here to LA, it's just so noisy out here that I was like, no one's gonna be able to hear this acoustic. And that's when I started to get into producing music on a computer through Ableton.
Oh, interesting.
So it makes total sense. I think you're right that and I was listening to watching the Rick James documentary yesterday, and they were talking about when he moved back to Buffalo, that's when he wrote Street Sounds, because he was kind of getting back in tune with what his old neighborhood was like. So I think you're spot on here that our environment absolutely influences our creative.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Huh.
Okay, we can use that as a little transition there, because why don't we start? Oh, you were asking me about did I answer your question? You asked me, I was like, oh, let me mention this one thing. No, we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how we got into Solange, because
Okay.
you told me that this was a soundtrack to your or I decided it was a soundtrack to your early love days.
Okay, so let me just catch you up on where I'm at in this time. So September 2019, this is when you meet. And what's your partner's name?
Chris.
Chris. Okay, Chris. So then that is August 24th, 2019 is mine and Adora's final wedding. We did 4. The first one was Thanksgiving 2018 in Nigeria. And then we did 2 in LA in January 2019. We did our nikah, which is the Islamic wedding. And then we did a wedding in a church where we had a imam and a priest co-officiate it together. And then the last one is called the Biamala Ono, and it basically means I don't know what Biamala means, but Ono means like home, or family. So basically what happens is, like, the first one in Nigeria, my people go to her where she's from, and we have to kind of make our case where it's like, this is who we are. This is how things, this is how we're going to treat her. This is kind of like what we bring to the table. And then we also have to give her village a bunch of gifts, because we're basically like a resource. An important member of the community is leaving, so we have to like fill that gap, if you will.
Oh, interesting.
So in the last one, then all her people come to where I'm from, and they make sure that we upheld our end of the bargain, or they give all their gifts back, like I imagine it in a very dramatic way, where everyone knows, like, do not marry into that family. So that was our last wedding there. That was done where all these, I think, like 200 Nigerians came to my small hick town in Wisconsin, and and it was awesome.
What a culture shock, I'm sure.
Yeah, not for them. They're all world travelers. They've been everywhere. Culture shock for us locals.
Right. Oh my gosh. So was it high pressure? I mean,
no. I mean, I think for one, because like they're going to go easier on me because I'm a white guy. That's like number one.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I'm not from the same town they're in.
Right.
And for two, like my mother-in-law had been like stayed with us probably for almost a total of 6 months in between.
Oh.
So like,
So
it
she
was more like, let's complete the ceremony and have a big party than like,
right.
this is we're that we might have to, this might not go through. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, a question I have for you is, I mean, how was it having 4 weddings? I mean, was it something that you both were kind of like already expecting and prepared for because this is just, it's cultural and this is what happens, or was it taxing?
It was so amazing, and I wish I could do it again. It
Oh,
was
really?
so much fun. So
Oh.
much fun. No downside at all. All
And
upside.
I mean, I'm sure they were all very different. So it wasn't like you were doing the same thing 4 times. So you had different experiences each time.
And they were in 3 different places:
Mm-hmm.
Nigeria, LA, Wisconsin. So,
Awesome.
you know, different people were able to come to different ones.
Mm-hmm.
Some people came to all 3. My dad came to all 3, and Adora's friends, who are now my friends, Ty and Cole, they came to the one in Nigeria and Wisconsin.
Oh, nice.
So kudos to them.
That is so nice.
Yeah, it was a blast. I mean, and like when I was in Nigeria and we were in her town, it's called Enugu, and it's very small. It's very rural Nigeria, and we're at the house that her grandfather built all those years ago. And I was just, you know, and my dad's speaking on my behalf and someone's translating, and I just had to pinch myself, like, you know, like 3rd grade Tom.
Mm-hmm. Right. Who would have thought?
You know, I thought, you know, I went to the school with the same 30 kids for 8 years. I thought, maybe probably gonna be one of these people, and little did I know. You know?
Wow. I know that probably felt surreal.
Yeah, it was a blessing for sure. I couldn't believe it.
I love that.
Okay, so now we're in our first couple months of full on married, and oh my God, and Adora was pregnant. So that's when she was pregnant at that wedding. So Jaya was in there, you know, doing her thing. That is also when Jayama started off as twins, her and then was also, we found out maybe a week and a half before our wedding that we lost one of the twins.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I appreciate that. I've processed it a lot now. That's why I'm able to talk about it. But that was just kind of like, so this was like the final months leading up to COVID. Anything you want to share about the final months leading up, or should we jump into 2020?
Final months leading up to COVID. Let's jump right in.
Okay.
Nothing that stands out.
Okay, why don't we do this though? Tell me a little bit about, because I think that it's gonna matter. I could be wrong. What's going on? Is this when you're doing fun employment and basically like what we were talking about on that podcast episode is you had, I think if I remember, you had left, you were back in your hometown, and you were getting a lot of great work locally. Is that kind of, am I remembering it correctly?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I moved from New York, where I was leading digital marketing at a nonprofit, and moved back home to Richmond, Virginia, started my agency. And things just took off with working with small businesses. Richmond, if for people who may not know about Richmond, it's one of the best cities to live in if you want to start a business. It is such a great, incredible city for small businesses, such a great infrastructure, lots of resources and support. I mean, just it's great for growing a business. So I moved and things kind of took off right away. And I started really connecting with a lot of small business owners who wanted marketing help, but then also just general consulting. And so that's really why I started Forever Funemployed, because I found so many entrepreneurs that, you know, they came to me for marketing help at first, but then it's like, actually, there are lots of other foundational pieces you need before we jump into marketing your business. And so then I became kind of a resource for a lot of entrepreneurs. And that's when I started Forever Funemployed around 2019.
How far away is Fairfax from Richmond?
It's about maybe like an hour 20. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not far.
I visited Fairfax in April and was super surprised by how like I actually enjoyed going to Virginia. So
Virginia is beautiful. It's a beautiful state. And I love that we are not too far from anything. I mean, if you want just exclusive mountains and you want to be in the wilderness, you got that. If you want big city, DC is right there. I mean, you can really, if you want to, we have the beach. I mean, we really have it all.
Okay, cool. So you're in Virginia. You've met this new guy. Maybe we're a couple months in. You are working away in your business.
Yeah.
On my end, I've just finished my last wedding. I'm starting to anticipate my child's coming in about 4 months. I would say one little caveat to add in there is in September, I made this huge bet that I was going to switch from focusing on social media to all paid media. So I was only going to do Facebook and Instagram ads. And so I invested a bunch of money in going through a program that taught you how to basically do the agency side, like how to hire, how to do sales calls, how to write contract. Like they taught us everything. So I had invested heavily in that in September. So I was just like nose deep or just totally immersed in all of that about that time. So that's what was leading up. Okay.
Yeah. And also I remember too, I think it might've been early 2020 or at some time during the pandemic, it's a blur, but yeah, you had made that switch to paid media. And we did, I spoke to one of your, was it a cohort or something?
Yep. One of our writing workshops.
Yep. You were on fire.
That was one of the best ones ever. I've always been like that's when I really got to see you like coaching and helping people. I was like, oh my God, Janna is so effing good. Like honestly, one of the best I've seen. Not just saying
thank
that.
you. Thank you.
That was amazing.
I appreciate that. I do. I appreciate it. That's what I love to do. I live to help people. I live to serve. I live to make an impact. So I was more than happy to do that with you.
Okay. So when is the first that you started to hear about COVID?
I would say March 13th. And I remember that date specifically because I had a girls' night planned and we were going to the movie. My apartment complex had a movie theater and you could just reserve it and bring your own movie. And it had theater seating. It was great. And I remember we were hearing weird things about some virus going around. And one of the girls said she had the flu. And she was like, but it's, it's fine. I've, been taking meds, so I think I'm good. And Friday, we told her like, hey, so we've been hearing about this weird COVID thing. We're not really sure what it is, but maybe you shouldn't come. And so then I remember we got to the movie night and we were Lysoling. Someone brought Lysol and they were Lysoling all the seats and literally every surface. And I was like, is this really necessary? And then the very next day we were supposed to go to this thing called Shamrock the Block, which is a St. Patrick's Day kind of block party that they have downtown. And so we were all supposed to go and we got an email that they'd canceled it due to COVID. And I was like, oh, that must be serious because they never canceled Shamrock the Block. So that was the first time that I'd heard of it and like figured it might be kind of serious. But I also was like, okay, let's just give it 2 weeks.
The 2 weeks.
Oh, so young, so naive. How about you? When did you first start hearing buzzing of COVID?
Well, this is another nice thing about doing it with video off is you can politely look things up. And I just looked, March 13th was the Friday, as a Friday here when we got the text message and everything that's like shelter in place. So that was the big day. I think a lot of people that's going to stick out to. So okay. I first started hearing about it because my daughter was born on the last week of February.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in the hospital, and my dad was saying, because he flew in, he was saying, I think this COVID's going to be something real. I keep seeing people with masks on. And I was like, whatever, Dad, buying into the hype.
Right.
And he's like, no, for real. And then when you go home from the hospital, you can usually just like take a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, nah, we don't really have much stuff because of supply chain. And my wife sent me home maybe like 6 hours before our daughter was going to come home for kind of like reconnaissance and just make sure the house was good.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I got into in the hospital was hand sanitizer, because I was always, like, it's like, can you take the baby? And they would have something on the wall. I'd be like, wipe my hands. We're good. So I was like, let me just have hand sanitizer all over the house. Not because of COVID, but just for her,
for general safety. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I went into the Ralphs, and they're like, no, we don't have any hand sanitizer. I went into the Walgreens. They're like, no, we don't. So I was like, what is the deal? And they're like, oh, it's that COVID thing. And I was like, whatever. And I remember in the parking lot when we pulled into the hospital, the dude that was like the parking attendant, had a hand sanitizer. And we were like trying to plot how we would steal it from him. He must have known because he's keeping an eye on it.
He's like, oh no, you're not gonna get me. I know what we're into.
Exactly. And then March 13th, same day, we put in an offer on a house, and it got accepted, and we had to say if we were in or not. And that day we got the text that all the lockdowns were happening, and we thought, we're already on the fence. Let's just not. We don't know what the things are going to be like.
Oh, man.
And then our naive thinking was like, and maybe the housing market will go down. Exact opposite. But
oh, wow. You could not have been more wrong.
Exactly. But it was great. We ended up fast forward getting a great house. So I'm glad we didn't get that one.
Oh, good. Good. Wow. That same day you put in an offer, you got the text about sheltering in place.
Exactly. Maybe it was the next day, because I think we did a couple negotiations, and they were like, okay, we accept your terms. Are you in? And then boom, we got the text from Garcetti out here, and we're like, let's just not.
And LA was a lot stricter than Virginia. My best friend is in LA, and the rules out there, I think we all should have had those rules. Maybe we would have been in better shape. But yeah, she was like, we can't do this, we can't do that. And I was like, wow, this must be serious.
Yeah, it was wild out here. It really was. What were those first couple months like for you?
So much fun. It was the first few months. I don't think I really realized like the magnitude of like how many people were really affected. I knew one person who'd passed away, unfortunately, one of my mom's patients. And so on one hand, it was like, scary. And I was really scared for my mom. She's a primary care physician. And so I was just, really wanted to make sure she was okay, which she, was taking all the measures, and she was perfectly fine. She didn't have any fear about it. But then I really enjoyed the staying inside. I really liked being able to slow down. I liked having, like there was no pressure to kind of just be all out and about. It was almost like a snow day when you just know everyone else is inside, so you don't have FOMO about not going outside. I learned how to bake things that I'd never baked before. I was like making mushroom soup. I don't know where that came from. Chris and I, we were new in our relationship, so we were we spent so much time together. But we learned how to paint. We learned how to make TikToks. We cooked a lot, and we got really creative. And I think that's really what helped our relationship, was that we had to find ways to get creative. So we had a happy hour. So it was a Friday happy hour at like 5:00. Chris was the bartender. So he was making drinks. He like set up a whole kind of bar lounge situation in my apartment. And so he made a bunch of bar food and he played bartender. He got like a couple different liquors and he was just making cocktails. It was a fun time. And so I enjoyed just like not having pressure to create, not having pressure to just be on. I really liked, being able to just spend time at home, spend time by myself and be really intentional about, just finding my own fun. Yeah. How about you?
If you don't mind me giving just a quick commentary.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, that took a lot of courage. And we talked about this in the episode for you to leave New York and come home.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, imagine if you were in New York working at that place during COVID.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I don't even want to,
not to mention no Chris,
Yeah, I think, and that it's so funny how life works out that way, where it's like you make a move one year and you don't even realize how important that move is further down the line. My life would have looked completely different. I don't even know that I would have been able to, I don't know that I would have been able to stay. I probably would have moved home if it were, if I were living in New York during the pandemic. I probably would have moved to Virginia, honestly. Yeah. I don't think I would have been able to do it.
So it's just wonderful when you think of, so I think just anyone out there, I hope you're taking note of just, have the courage and listen to the episode, go back and listen because we really unpacked all of it where, sometimes it can seem like, oh, am I taking a step back when really, listening to your heart is setting you up for something even bigger.
Oh, that is so spot on. That is exactly right. And I think one of the I look at life as like a quilt, or I think it's a quilt. And, there are so many different pieces and components. And like, I think, have you ever looked at the back of a quilt and kind of you see all the lines of how, on the front, you see this beautiful picture, then you flip it over and you see like all the lines of how you've had to stitch things and, kind of move them around. And I feel like that is, that reminds me a lot of life. It's like you make certain, movements and on, looking at it, it may not look like it makes sense. But then when you kind of take a step back, you're like, oh, it's a part of a bigger picture. And so I think it's really important to not ignore those itches. It's important to not ignore those urges to do something different, even if you can't place it in kind of this big picture of how things are supposed to be or what might happen. It's like sometimes you just have to move. Whether it's, figuratively or literally, if you have to move, and then trust that it's all a part of this greater plan that's going to be, happen for you. And so, when I moved, I wasn't thinking at all about the fact that, the man I'd marry is at home. And I would, when I move, I'd meet the person who would introduce me to him. I moved because I felt like it was the right thing to do for my career. But then it ended up being exactly what I needed to be able to build this life that I love now.
And it's so dope that it's like, even when you think of like you going to a Beyonce party, and then just like, I imagine when you went on the dance floor, you weren't like, okay, I'm going to dance so that hopefully someone catches this and puts it on a reel and I get, you're like, oh, it was just all feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like following your joy.
Yep. Yeah.
And boom. And you became a Joyner.
I love that. Exactly. And it's we can't make moves, with this. We can't make moves with, thinking about so many other factors because we can't control anything. All we can do is control what we do in that moment. And in that moment, I was like, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy dancing. I don't care who's watching. I'm not embarrassed that I know the choreography. I'm going to be in the middle of the dance floor. I was being my true authentic self. And in turn, I was introduced to someone who loves my true authentic self. And so I always try to show up as myself, not just because I've met someone great because of it, but because you never know who needs what you have to offer, whether it's a friendship, a business relationship, romantically, whatever. It pays to be your authentic self, because you never know who needs you.
Janna dropping another life lesson on us, y'all. It's so true that when you're like actual full self, even if you feel super self-conscious doing it, you will meet people who then are going to love you for that.
Yep. 100%.
You know, if you start acting, you know, you're going to attract people who like the mask.
Mm-hmm.
And people who like masks usually have masks of their own.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's kind of like with this podcast, you know, I was really thinking, I've been doing this podcast since 2015.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, how do I not get burnt out on this?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, I'm just going to start doing whatever I want. And if people are like, I wish you talked more about business, or they're like, I wish you talked less about business, that it's like, then just stop listening to my podcast, because ultimately I have to just enjoy this. And you kind of just gave me a gift here, Janna, that it's like the people who, like, there are people who are going to align with what brings me joy. And that's how you do it. It's such, that was such a gift.
You can't be for everybody.
Yeah.
And so you found your lane, and like it's what brings you joy, and it's what speaks to your interests. And so it's like, all right, now you get to find your people.
Yeah. So on my end, those first months of the pandemic were a mix of a lot of things. I had a newborn, which instantly changed my life. Instantly. Very first night, instantly. And I remember exactly where it was. So my daughter was born, which was like, it's too live to feel anything in that moment. It's just like, oh my God. Cause she comes out and because we did a C-section. So she comes out and, you know, I'm holding her and then I'm cutting her umbilical cord. And it's just like too much, like, what the fuck is my life? Like, it's too real of an emotion to just be able to be like, I'm feeling this. It's like, I think it's a little bit like when people do risky stuff, you know, where you like climb a mountain, or just, like, what's his name? The Virgin guy. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No. Virgin?
He's also got a spaceship company.
Oh, Robert or something Brent.
Yeah.
I know. I know who you're talking about.
We're like, okay.
Barack Obama was like on water with him. I know.
Richard Branson. That's what it is.
Richard Branson. Yeah. Or not Robert. Richard. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So I think because it felt like that, like I was just totally present. There was no feelings. But then, and I also didn't know my daughter's name. Adoro got to pick her name. So then, you know, I'm like holding this wonderful child. I have, like, other than in, like, out of her mother's womb, I have no relationship with this person other than, like, yes, I'm your father, but like, and then Adora's like, I think her name's Janna. And then I was like, oh my God, that's so awesome. So now now I know this is Janna. And then we like lay down, we're going to go to bed. And maybe, like, I don't know, 30 seconds later, Janna starts yelling. And then I was just like, got right to, and Adora can't get out of bed because she's still below her waist, numb. So it's like, I'm getting her stuff. I'm helping my wife to the bathroom. And it's just like, boom. I love acts of service. That's like one of my love languages. So it's like, oh, I can totally fit into this role.
Yeah.
It was awesome. And I just thought nothing about my business. So I was like full on other side of my life mode.
Yeah.
And so that was just awesome. And I took the night shift with my daughter. So basically, right around 5:00, my wife and I would both be on, but at 8, I would full on. It was like 100% I was on. And so from 8 until 6 in the morning was my shift. So that was different, being like fully up at night, and it's no one else but me and her. And then I was able to take my business full time because everybody wanted to go digital. So now it's like, I'm getting all these things that I wanted. And it felt like such a little like cocoon. Like it was my wife, my daughter, me, and my mother-in-law in our 2-bedroom apartment. And we just like, it was great because, to be honest, my mother-in-law would have had folks at our house every day showing off this wonderful baby.
Yes.
So I loved how it was just low key us four. My mother-in-law loves to cook, or at least she loves to cook for me. So it's just like,
so you were good on that front,
you know. And so all that was awesome, and it was extremely stressful. I was trying to keep my business afloat. I mean, I know I'm speaking to the choir, but just also, as it was like, I am obviously aware of that my wife's life could be taken from her because she's Black, but it became a different level when we had a child. And so, you know, everything that was happening, and then, are we gonna reelect Trump? Like that was just always on my mind. Like, okay, are we gonna have to leave this country? Because I don't think we're gonna survive another 4 years. That's just how I was feeling.
Oh, so you were seriously thinking about that.
Yeah, it was like, and I thought we would have to do it like under the cover of darkness. Like, I maybe call me paranoid, but I was just like, I was like, okay,
it got bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
So all of that, and then just seeing on TV people just not giving a shit about COVID, and then their best friend would die, and then they just
all of a sudden they're bringing awareness, and it's just like, you could have cared about this before and we wouldn't even be here.
Yeah. So those were like the mix of emotions of that first year.
But I think listening to all of that, I mean, so in the span of, less than a year, you have your 4th wedding, have baby, take your business full time, you're sheltering in place with the 4 of you, and then all of the racial tension and election tension. I don't think we as a people really stop to realize how much shit we endure back to back to back to back. And it's like, this is not sustainable. And I think something has to give. I think like we cannot go on business as usual, because we have all endured so much in such a short period of time. So much death, so much uncertainty. I mean, businesses failing while others are, businesses are booming. And it's just like, sometimes I can't believe all that we're just expected to just move through, It's
exactly why I was like, I want to talk to people like you. And because it's for me, I feel like I've been running until August this year, when I just kind of like, I had this crossroads in my life, whereas like, either you're going to keep running and just become miserable, or you can finally stop this race you started at the beginning of 2020 and just face it. So it's really true. It's like, I feel like I feel like even before, all the issues that 2020 highlighted were there. It just amplified them. And it's just, to me, it's like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of us are like, have still compartmentalized a lot of the pain. And it's almost like a running to distract from it's like PTSD. I think we all have PTSD. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And no one talks about that. And no one makes space to really address it. And it's like, what do we do? We're all out here just fending for ourselves. One thing you said was you just decided to kind of put a stop to this race that you've been running since 2020. What did that look like for you? How did you put a stop to it and end to it?
Well, I've shared this in a couple of the episodes. For me, so basically my business kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And at like the height of it, we had about 40 done for you clients. I had 4 people on programs as employees, and I had 2 people that were full-time commission based on sales. And it was just constant. And I was kind of like, okay, this is the level of success you've always journaled about and dreamed about. What do you think of it's like I had a #1 album. You know what I mean? What do you think of your life? You're a #1 artist. This is what you always said you needed to be happy. Are you happy? And it was like, actually, I'm kind of miserable. It's like,
Really?
okay, it's what everyone has motherfucking said, that success will not make you happy. Do you get it now? And I was like, I do. I get it. It's like, okay, so why don't we try to build life from a happiness standpoint, not a success? And
I
it's like,
love that.
oh, that sounds scary. It's like, okay, we'll let the journey begin. So that's
so what do you think was the source of that unhappiness, having reached everything? Was it that you reached it and you felt burnt out, or that you know, what do you think it was?
It's a number of things. One thing is that I no longer want my business to take up such a significant part of my life. I don't need it for my, so I think a lot of this has been many layers of my ego have died. So I don't need any more like, oh, that's Tom. Did you know he's got a $1 million agency? Did you know that? Like, oh, that's Tom. Did you know he's the like #1 in his niche? It's like, I don't care. You know, and it's like, okay, I see what it's like to have all this cash coming into a business, but what if it was simpler? You wouldn't need as much cash. You know, so I think it was realizing how much I really like spending time with myself doing things that aren't work. And also I realized you need a lot of mental time to creatively think through solutions as a husband and as a father. And if it's like, okay, my daughter gets home at 6, let me work right until 6, then you're just going to be in reaction mode. But if it's like, if I sit down and literally just think about her life, I can start to see patterns of things that she likes, and I can anticipate them, and I can do fun things. And like, I can go all in as a dad the same way I've been going all in as an agency owner. And I think that you are actually enjoy going all in as a dad more, if not as much as business ideas. So like, you need to then restructure your life so that it's like structurally your business will not leak over, if that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. It does.
So what about these are great questions, by the way. I appreciate this.
I'm very interested in your journey as an entrepreneur. You know, this is my lane. So and as an agency owner, I get it. It's a lot. It can be a lot, and you have to find what works for you and what is going to make you, help you thrive in whatever area you're focused in, for sure.
So what was going on with your business? Take me through as much as you'd like, 2020 into 2021, if you'd like. What was going on with your business?
Well, like you, my business boomed. I think, I was very grateful that I had a business that, was able to sustain. And, we all talk about, the whole point of having a business is because you're meeting a need. And I think that need became so clear, more clear than ever in 2020. And so business really boomed. That was the first time. I had a lot of people, I had gone through, interns over the years and people that, contractors, but that was the first time that I actually needed to hire a full-time position and someone to someone on salary. And so I went through a recruiter, and, she listed, the job description. We went through the interview like all of those things. And I felt so official. That was my first time doing it, but it was things really picked up for me. And I really had to start thinking about the type of business that I wanted to build, and what, what direction I wanted to go in, what type of balance I needed to have now that I was, growing pretty quickly, and it demanded so much more of me. And I think 2020 was when things really started picking up and things started growing. And then 2021 was when I was like, okay, wait, I need some balance here, because I can't just be all work all the time. And so I really started to hire my weaknesses. I knew that in order for me to have this kind of balance that I wanted, and at that point, so my husband has 2 children, 4 and 5. And at the time they were 2 and 3. And so once I started coming into their life, I wanted to, we wanted to just spend more meaningful time together. And a lot of the time that I spent, I was, on my computer. And so I really wanted to kind of see what life could be like as a unit of 4 of us. And that required me to kind of fire myself from some things that just were eating up my time, and the return wasn't, that good. And so I hired more and more, and, really started filling in gaps of, things that needed to be done, that it wasn't the best use of my time and my energy to do it. And so it freed me up to be more intentional about how I spent my time with my family, how I grew my relationship with Chris, and maintained a social life, whatever that could look like at the time. So I that allowed me to grow. And I think the thing that was so beautiful is that hiring people and firing myself, I was actually able to really see what I'm made of when it comes to being a boss and being a leader. I think more than running my business, more than the work that I do, I love the opportunity to make an impact. And so on one side, I make an impact with, my clients, of course, and the work that we do for them, but also making an impact as a leader and mentoring and, challenging and encouraging them to push themselves. And so that's really when I started, I continue to grow as a strategist and a marketer, but that was really when I got to grow as a leader. And that kind of spilled over into my personal life, leading, my family in the ways that, in the areas where I lead my family. So I think, the pandemic, it was great for business, but I think it was more transformational for me as a professional, really, trying out different styles of leadership and, figuring out exactly what my business needed, being able to work with different types of clients. So I'm grateful for it in that regard.
Okay, this is Tom Earl from the future, not Tom Earl having the actual conversation. We are going to pause it right here. What do you think, Janna?
Yeah, let's go ahead and put a pin in it.
Yes. Even though, like I already said, we didn't in the moment say this. This is post-production happening here, folks. The power of it not always being live. So we as a team have decided this is a good place to pause it. This has just been such an awesome conversation that I kept saying to Janna, can you go a little longer? Can you go a little longer? Can you go a little longer? So next week we're going to pick up and go through some stuff that's even deeper. If you thought we were already deep, we're going to really share some things about getting to have the honor of raising some being a part of some young people's lives. Maybe we've already talked about that, but we're going to go into that further, go into our business, just some more vulnerable, powerful stuff like that. So hope you come back and join us next week. All right. We will see you next week. I appreciate you for listening to this one. Let us know what you think. And as we've been sharing, we'd love for you to join our Direct Connect community if you're interested in learning how to boldly tell your story and then using the power of ads to directly connect you with the exact person who needs to hear it. Come join us. We have scholarships available to anyone who needs it. We want you to be a part of our community. tomearl.me/DCM invite. You can find that in the show links as well. My friends, as always, we're wishing you peace and blessings. Thank you.
Oh, one more thing.
I'd love to continue the conversation. Feel free to join me at tomearl.com/join. Subscribe below, or let's connect on social media. Tom Earl Artist. Thanks again for watching.